Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast.
Go Blue, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. With me this week on our Game Day segment is editor John Borton from the Wolverine Magazine. Before he joins us, a few news and notes to get us started. It is shaping up to be a very entertaining winter on the Michigan athletics scene. As we wind down the first month of the year, wrestling is ranked number 3 in the country, women's basketball number 8, hockey is number 3, and women's gymnastics holds down the number 1 spot nationally. Men and women's swimming and diving also ranked in the top 10. In hoops, Juwan Howard and his team still have some work to do. Preseason expectations were just not realistic. We lost a lot of offense after last season, and even though we returned several key players from last year's team, we were also adding to the mix a group of uber-talented freshmen, and it can take time for it all to come together when that happens. My guest today says Michigan needs to finish strong if it hopes to make it back to the big dance. But with all of the talent we have, it is possible. Joining me on our Game Day segment to discuss that and more is John Borton from the Wolverine Magazine. So stay with us. Here with us on our Game Day edition this week with a lot to talk about is editor John Borton from the Wolverine Magazine. Great to have you back with us, John.
Hi, Mike. Always good to be with you and talking about Michigan athletics. And as you noted, there are no lack of topics to hit.
Oh, no, there's so much happening right now across the board, a lot of sports. So we're going to touch base on a lot of those things. Let's start first with basketball. Juwan Howard and his team, they put together 3 strong performances in a row, John, against Illinois. That was a loss, though. Maryland, and then was a win. And then IU Sunday down in Bloomington, a big win, impressive in a place that has never been kind to Michigan. It looks like it's starting to come together for this team, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and it's ironic that we would be talking about a loss as the starting point, but really that's exactly what it was, because this team, shorthanded and COVID-ridden, went into Illinois against a team that just wanted to take the Wolverines apart, and their fans wanted the same thing. You know, they felt like they were due some measure of reckoning for the evils of Michigan winning the Big Ten championship last year and all that. You know, they wanted to run Michigan right out of the building. Well, a bunch of guys without Hunter Dickinson and without some others just said, well, we're not going to let it happen. And it's interesting. My son did not watch the game, but he saw the final score, and I was telling him what a great effort it was by the Wolverines, and he saw a 15-point difference and kind of shrugged. And I said, well, let me tell you about the game. You know, to be in the position where you're a point down with 7 minutes to go, it just showed a lot out of this team. And I think it might have helped wake them up to what was possible. And since then, you've gotten guys back. You've seen the execution. Winning at home against Maryland is not one that you're going to put at the top of your NCAA resume, but wins are wins at this point. And then to go on the road at Indiana, unbelievable to win by 18 points, to get out of the gate like they did, to control that game. There's so many things that Michigan is doing noticeably different, but the 2 top things in my mind, they're starting to learn to play defense together at the college level. And also, you talk about Caleb Houston, what a absolutely dramatic difference from his shooting struggles earlier in the season to what he's done lately. And to have that kind of a scoring option, a third scoring option, to see the threes going in, it changes everything about this team.
Well, it certainly does, John. I mean, we've been, noticing all season the perimeter shooting has just not been that good. It's been okay from 3-point range, but overall, not what you want. But when you have guys like Caleb Houston, you sort of know, I mean, he's a freshman, and we've got other shooters. It's just a matter of time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because he was such a good shooter in high school and in international competition. And the kid can shoot the basketball. He just got off to a start that, is not terribly uncommon at the college level. Everybody's a step quicker. Everybody closes out on threes faster. There's a hand in your face, and you have to adjust to, okay, how when I pull up and pull the trigger, I need to do it just a little bit faster than I did before. And this is a young man that shot at a really high percentage, like I said, and he was not a 31% three-point shooter, which actually he was. Not that long ago, and now seeing the ball go in, it changes things. It opens more things up for an Eli Brooks, who went from the number 4 or 5 option on offense last year to the number 2 immediately this year, and that was a struggle for him. It opens up more things for Hunter Dickinson and Musa Diabate. It changes the game because there's more exits to guard, and that just is. Been something that has been really, really positive for Juwan Howard's team. And, you search and search as a coach, and there are definitely things that you have to coach up in terms of things like the defense and how you play together there. Some of it, these players just have to get comfortable, have to figure it out themselves. And I see Caleb Houston as a great example of a young man doing that at this point.
Well, let's talk a minute about Hunter Dickinson, John. He's been playing well all year, but he missed that Illinois game. In the last 2 weeks, we have seen him absolutely take his game to another level, haven't we?
Yeah, he's been very, very aggressive. You see him, the moves that he's worked on, the improvements that he's made. And one of the biggest differences I see from Hunter Dickinson from early in the season to now is that he has been forceful and loud and fired up, more like he was last year. I think what you saw early in the year was getting used to a whole new cast of characters, which wasn't always performing at times like that group did last year. And I think you saw some frustration on the face of Hunter Dickinson, almost to the point, he never said anything like this, and he always said the right things. We're growing together and all that. But there were times on the court that it just looked like he was thinking, I came back for this, and that's gone. That is completely gone as you watch him in these recent games. He's a guy that has the potential. You like your seniors to lead or your upperclassmen, but here is a dominant figure for Michigan at 7-1 and a guy that's your top scorer, and you need him to lead. And when he is a positive, fired up force for this team, it takes on a different mentality.
Well, as we get ready to roll the calendar up on January, we've got February and March, so every game is going to be important. And now that we have Hunter back and hopefully the COVID situation pretty much under control, when you watch this team, John, watching them on Sunday, one of the things I thought is, hey, you know what? The depth is pretty darn good right now. We got Brandon Johns Jr. back. Juwan can pretty much go with an 8 or 9 man rotation and be solid, can't he?
Yeah, there's no doubt. He has guys that can come in and really give you a lift. Terrence Williams has done that of late. I really like some of the potential for Frankie Collins. Here's a kid who just if I block everything else out and just see him move up and down the court, I get a little Ricky Green flashbacks. If you've got people that have been listening and watching since the 70s, that doesn't. I'm not making a comparison there at all, but the quickness and the way he is able to move, he's got a lot of growth to do in his shooting and in other aspects of his game. But I like Frankie Collins a lot. You mentioned Brandon Johns Jr., who was such a big part last year towards the end of the season especially, and in the tournament stepping up and doing some things. He has been a little bit MIA so far this year, but he has got the potential. He knows what he's doing. Frankie Collins just the other day said, if we are wanting to know how to get it done at this level, how to go about things, whether it's in practice or preparing for games on our own, whatever it might be, there are two guys that we look at. That would be not only Eli Brooks, but also Brandon Johns Jr. So he's doing the right things. He just needs to have some things click for him on the court, and he is certainly capable of being that guy that in the back half of the season, back half of the Big Ten schedule, gets more assertive and more notice as someone that is giving Michigan a real lift.
Well, right now, John, we're recording on Wednesday morning, so tonight Michigan is going to be entertaining Northwestern at Chrysler, and that, of course, will not be easy. Look what Northwestern did coming into the Breslin and winning. And then Michigan State on Saturday at the Breslin, and as impressive as that win for Michigan was last week at IU, how much more impressive would it be to go into the Breslin and get one?
Well, that would be the signature win of the season if they were able to pull that off. I mean, you have the same sort of daunting task at Michigan State as you did at Illinois, and you have if it's possible to be more motivated to really beat up on Michigan than was Illinois, you've got that in East Lansing. They will be coming armed and seeing a Michigan team that has been vulnerable most of this season, and they are going to want to bury the Wolverines. And, Michigan is going to have to combine in that game the ferocity and the effort with which they played in Champaign and do it with the execution that we saw down at Indiana, and some of the contributions that they're getting from up and down the roster. They're just going to have to really play their best game. A loss up there does not doom them in any way with regard to the season. But again, you'd like to have a good effort up there. But first things first, you have to take care of Northwestern, and all Juwan Howard has to do is show them the Michigan State tape where Northwestern went up to the Breslin and won, to know that okay, this is not going to be any easy task. You don't take any game for granted.
Absolutely, you do not, because Michigan does not have much room for error, I wouldn't think, the rest of the way. I mean, 9-7 heading into tonight's Northwestern game. How many games in Big Ten play do you think Michigan is going to need to win, John, to get into the big dance?
That's a great question. I think it, in part, depends on how this thing shakes out and how other teams do. If you have a couple of dominant teams and then a big middle of the pack, that makes a difference. But I would not feel safe about Michigan until it at least, even then you don't feel safe. But I would think they would want to get to 11 wins in the Big Ten to start to feel like, okay, you're above 500 in a very tough league, and you're going to get a look. Depending on, you need to post some strong wins in there. You can't just beat up on the middle of the pack.
Well, we have plenty of time to get it done. It's going to be an exciting February and March. As we mentioned at the top, John, a lot going on in the Michigan athletic scene, and I don't know that we've ever had this many teams ranked top 10 in so many sports. And let's start with Michigan women's basketball. 17-2 overall, 8-1 in the Big Ten. They're ranked number 8 in the country right now. Kim Barnes-Arico has this team playing just great, elite basketball, really. And they're going to be down in Columbus on Thursday to take on those Buckeyes.
No doubt about it. And I remember watching the superstar for the Wolverines, Naz Hillman, and just an incredible game that she had against the Buckeyes last year. They'll need that sort of effort again. What a year for things to come together for this team. And you mentioned Kim Barnes-Arico. She is doing, basically at the apex of her time here in this stretch. To be 17-2, to be 8-1 in the Big Ten, still undefeated at home and 10-0. It's very, very impressive. And you've got a team that is playing together, playing with great energy. To see them having overcome Baylor in overtime, that's huge. That is absolutely huge. Now, you took out Ohio State in a blowout at home. You have to now go on the road and get that done. But I think that this team hasn't shown a lot of fear about going on the road. You know, they've won at College Park. They've won at State College. It's been impressive the way the poise that they've maintained. And I just think that this is a year where this team could really. It's made great strides and great breakthroughs, but it could be, in a way, it could be a Michigan football 2021 kind of year where you really make the big breakthrough.
Another great season for Michigan hockey. They're ranked number 3 in the country. Now, they split a pair with Minnesota last weekend up there. This weekend, they stay on the road against Wisconsin. And this team is just loaded with NHL caliber and, unfortunately, for the next few weeks, Olympic talent, isn't it, John?
Yeah, we're going to see, how Michigan adjusts to changes in that way for sure. And playing Wisconsin is always difficult. That's a very, very good Wisconsin team. But I look at this squad and how it is rounded together. Now they're going to find out, how they are in the next man up game. Michigan had to do it in basketball with COVID striking, but I think they're going to have to do it with a whole lot of defense. You look at the games that they've won in recent weeks. You've got giving up 1 goal, 2 goals for the most part in almost every game. And if you can do that, I think it's one of those deals where you can keep yourself in it and give you chances to win it, even when you might not be lighting up the red light as much as you'd like. Mel Pearson knows what he's doing. He can handle a roster, certainly, and his coaches be very interested to see what they do and how they weather having their roster nicked in the way they're going to.
Another team that's just looking outstanding is wrestling, number 3 in the country. They're 6-1. Their only loss coming against Penn State. They're going to be at home this Friday against Minnesota, and I hope more people check out this team. It's so exciting. I've always loved wrestling, John, but they're on BTN Friday night. Very exciting team to watch.
Well, I would agree with you, and it's always a worthwhile team to watch. It's crazy because you know that in the conference you've got you could be 4th or 5th among your peers and yet be 7th or 8th in the nation, because that's how good wrestling is around here. Michigan has they had the one big setback against Penn State, but very, very impressive overall. It is a year in, year out. You can guarantee that they are going to be extremely solid, and they are again this year. I would wholeheartedly agree with you. A program that is always worth a look, and a specific team this year that is worth watching.
Absolutely. So again, they're going to be at home Friday night on BTN, so check them out, folks. And let's not forget about women's gymnastics, John. What an outstanding program Coach Plocky has, because they're off to another great start. They are ranked number 1 in the country this week. She has this team competing at such an elite level every year, doesn't she?
Oh, no doubt about it. And all the excitement, all the drama of them winning the national championship last year. One of the things that she mentioned to me when I was talking to her was the fact that she was incredibly excited because of, and you very rarely hear coaches talk like this. You just don't. I remember one year when we put the national championship ring on the cover of our '97 football preview, and the coaches weren't crazy about that at all because they know how hard it is to repeat. But Bev Plocky, in the wake of that triumph last year, taking home the national honors, said, we don't lose very much in our top of the lineup spaces. And she said, we have a very good chance to do it all again. And I mean, that was just shocking because, you know, it's definitely not coach speak.
No.
And, but that was the confidence that she has in some of these gals. As you watch them, you know that these are women that have been there in the most in the most pressure-packed situations of all. The Sierra Brooks, Abby Heiskell, the ones who got it done last year, they are back and they are leading and they are absolutely guiding this team. This could be a gymnast-driven team in a lot of ways because, like I said, it's not again a reference to Michigan football. You've got a roster now that will know exactly how you win a Big Ten championship next year because they went through it, because they experienced it. Well, with Bev Plocky's roster, you've got a team that knows how to win a national championship, and they are going about their business as if they have every intention of being right there at the end.
I don't want to forget Michigan men and women swimming and diving because they're both top 10 too, aren't they, John?
I believe you are correct, and no surprise there because it seems like that is almost an annual thing, just getting going nicely in that sport. Michigan men started out very strong at the SMU Classic and blew out Purdue in a recent match. They just know what they're doing. They're very, very good and deep. So we expect plenty out of them. As far as the women's team, again, just like the men, coming out 6-0. Also won the SMU Classic and absolutely destroyed Purdue at West Lafayette, 232-68. And followed that up with, they're going against number 20 Missouri, and they blew them right out of the water, 215-85. These programs are well trained, and like I said, they recruit well. The depth, a lot of good things going on around the Michigan Athletic Campus.
Yes, there are, and as busy as it has been with all the teams we've discussed today, John, in the next few weeks, add softball and baseball to the mix because they are ready to head south and play, aren't they?
No doubt about it. And you talk about teams that certainly for the women have been there forever under Carol Hutchins, and as far as the men are concerned, that they have taken the strides to put themselves among the elite in that sport as well. Be fun to see what they pull out of the hat going. It's tough. They have to do a lot of training inside because, as you know, they're looking at the frozen tundra of Michigan right now. But going south and playing a lot of ball early, they might take some lumps against teams that have been playing and practicing outside for most of the winter so far. But by the time the Big Ten seasons roll around, these are going to be programs that are very capable of getting it done and doing some damage.
Well, John, let's wrap it with a couple of football questions, which we haven't talked about yet. A story that I saw pop up last night was about Mike Macdonald. There are some rumblings. There might be an NFL team interested in him, maybe some other college teams. I know we, after this past year, expected he might be gone soon, but not this soon.
No, not this soon, and that would be a huge blow to Michigan. I tell you what, Mike Macdonald has been one of the more impressive guys that have come along as an assistant coach in recent memory, and he did an exquisite job with this defense this year. A little glitch at times adjusting to the college tempo game, but tell you, how can you argue with the way this team got it done against Ohio State, held the Buckeyes 20 points under their scoring average on the season? Mike Macdonald would be a major, major loss for the Wolverines. And yes, he's definitely taking a look. I think the Baltimore Ravens are interested in him. They have released their defensive coordinator, and now you could have a guy that turns into a one-year loan from Harbaugh to Harbaugh. You have to, if you're a Michigan football fan, you definitely hope that that is not the case. But as we understand it, Mike Macdonald is not on the road recruiting right now, and so we will see what goes on and whether or not he heads back to Baltimore.
Well, Michigan fans, John, are anxious about something else. It's that contract negotiation, which we sure don't hear much about between Jim Harbaugh and Ward and the administration. Have you heard anything that's happening with that?
Well, I've heard the big things. One, Jim Harbaugh hasn't signed the contract, that it's there, and that as long as that's the case, that gives people pause, because that leaves Jim Harbaugh open to listening to potential suitors. And if, say, the Las Vegas Raiders or the New York Giants or someone else decides that they are very interested in, even if the Miami Dolphins, whose Michigan connected owner has said he wouldn't take Jim away from Michigan, but if he knew that Jim Harbaugh was saying, "Look, I'm going," then you could see the Dolphins enter the ring. For Jim Harbaugh, he's in a great position, much better, as he even jokingly noted, than he was a year ago. And I guess you'd always rather have a head coach who has options, because that means he's doing well and people want him. And I think it would be pretty disappointing if after that breakthrough season, if after taking down the Buckeyes and winning the Big Ten championship, that became a springboard to go elsewhere, but you don't have any control. The only one that has control over that are the people that are interested in him and Jim Harbaugh himself. So the wait continues.
It sure does. As we roll into February, we'll just, have to stay tuned, as they say, and see what happens. With us today has been editor John Borton from the Wolverine Magazine, and we covered a lot of ground this morning. John, I thank you so much for your time. Always a great guest, and we look forward to our next visit.
It's fun being with you, Mike, and you do a terrific job of covering a lot of ground with Michigan athletics, and I know that's why people like tuning in. So thanks for the opportunity.
On Quick Hits today, as we mentioned during the interview, Michigan has Northwestern at home Wednesday night tonight, and then heads to East Lansing for a Saturday tip at the Breslin against Sparty. Women's basketball is back in action Thursday down in Columbus, facing the Buckeyes. The game has been moved to 7 p.m. and will air on the Big Ten Network. Number 3 hockey is on the road again this weekend, traveling to Wisconsin. Face-off is set for 6 p.m. Central Time on Friday, and the game will be streamed live on Big Ten Plus. Saturday's contest is scheduled to start at 8 p.m., and the game will be broadcast live on the Big Ten Network. Number 3 wrestling will be at home Friday when it hosts Minnesota at 7 p.m., and you can catch all of the action on BTN if you can't make it there. Number 1 women's gymnastics will return home on Sunday to compete against Michigan State at 2 p.m. The meet is set to be featured on ESPNU. The number 7 men's swimming team and the number 3 women's diving and swim team will be in Columbus to take on Ohio State on Friday at 3 p.m. That does it for a very busy week on the Michigan sports scene. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine weekend, everyone. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue.
Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!